This week was the release of, I guess it's iOS 18.2, and has
Yeah.
an important feature, Matt, that I wanted to get your opinion on. So, Apple Intelligence, which we've been talking about on the show, it's officially released a whole bunch of things. The
Hmm.
one thing it released, and I'll read it here. Apple Intelligence also begins language expansions with localized English support for Australia, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, South Africa, and the UK. So my
Woot
question
woot.
for you, as a
Hmm.
born and bred American, but an expat for many years now in Australia, and I believe, and you can correct me in a moment, I believe you actually have now set in other programs, you set your preferred language as Australian English, because
I had to. Yeah.
occasionally when we get an email or a message from you, we see like an Australian spelling, which I actually think is more like a British spelling, but we'll get to that in a moment, maybe.
Oh,
So
it's both.
my question is, when I think you probably haven't done it. If you're using Apple Intelligence, or
Hmm.
when you use Apple Intelligence and you're in Sydney, will you be using the Australian Apple Intelligence, or will you be
I
using
am.
the English? Oh, really? So
Yeah.
can you give us a little
Wait.
bit of
You need to finish that. You need to finish that. The English, the American English.
the American English? I don't know. I feel like, I mean, we're not really in charge of English, but like I just feel like, like we've
Well,
taken it over. American English is taken over, but I realize, many countries would disagree.
yeah, the UK might say something or other.
So have you done like a rewrite? So I was thinking, because you've taught us, really, when I think all the listeners, you've taught us a little bit of Australian words we don't know. So for example, if I was to write like the electrician is on the way, and then you were to ask,
No.
would they
Yeah.
change it? Would you ask the Apple Intelligence in Australia? Would be like, the Sparky is on the way. Like, is that the level of Apple Intelligence you're seeing?
Right now, I turned it on like maybe 2 days ago, and I
Uh-huh.
haven't really. It's not enabled for my work yet, or will be. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think that's a security setting they don't allow. So my primary laptop does not have it enabled, but my personal, so far it's just trying to like auto respond to text messages. Siri seems maybe a little less dumb. I don't know. But I haven't really noticed that much. It does not try to find and replace all occurrences of American English with Australian. My spell
Okay.
check was already doing, the basics,
Uh-huh.
as the thread can attest. Um, but yeah, it's not it. I don't see it whole cloth replacing things to make you sound more Australian.
I was gonna say,
It's
well, I mean, I guess maybe my main question is like, have you noticed anything? Like, what does it mean? Like, obviously, there are like different spellings. That's the obvious one
that's all I've
between.
noticed so far,
Is there any?
right?
But like, does it actually rewrite things? Like, as I was joking
Mm-mm.
before,
No.
electrician and Sparky, and like whatever the Australian preferred term for all the things that you've taught us, versus the
Right.
American versus the British, right?
Yeah. I can totally see, like, I go like, hey Siri, put a calendar invite for this afternoon for you know uh, a barbecue lunch, and then it'd be like, chucking a sickie to go to BBQ this Arvo, and you're like, what?
Well, that's what I want. I think I'm going to open an enhancement request right away for Apple Intelligence. Like, no, I want the full Australian.
you know,
I want things written so that an American person would question whether or not this was even the same language.
I mean, I don't want to go like full on Cassandra or whatever, but this is just part of the watering down of culture everywhere. I mean, you've already seen it and television, right? Everybody has a California accent, which gets exported to the world's television, and so like any American show mostly sounds, like Southern California, unless they need that eccentric, East Coast Boston accent or something, or a New Yorker, right? But it weeds out a lot of the interesting things of different cultures. And I've heard Australians say like accents are getting less strong here.
Mhm.
And it's I assume it's true. Also, there's just a ton of immigrants anyway, and we tend to,
You, Matt, you, not yeah,
yes, yes,
you're the problem, Matt.
yes. I'm the problem, but I always notice when I'm talking with other immigrants, like they're not, they don't have Australian accents either, so it's like everyone's kind of changing the accent. But I feel like AI further pushes people towards homogeneity. Um, so I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying it's kind of boring.
So you're sad to be losing the Australian accent you never had. Is that what is
Yeah,
that what you said?
yeah. I did not embrace it, and I guess I'm part of its downfall. Um,
I was
but
gonna say
also like
within your family
regional
only.
American accents are getting weeded out too, though.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say only. I guess I don't think anyone in your family. I guess your youngest was probably too old. Like he doesn't have an Australian accent, does he?
None of them do.
I
No.
was gonna say they were kind of too old. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Well, Matt, the best you can do, you can always just set the localization, right? Set the
Oh,
localization too, and then
it
that's
is
the
set.
way to keep it alive. I've been doing Duolingo as I've mentioned on the show before, and I'm
Are
actually.
you learning Australian?
I was gonna say, well, a couple updates on that. One, my Duolingo paid subscription thankfully runs out on December 25th, and I'm breaking the streak. Like I have
Oh
a hard
no!
time breaking streaks, but I'm like, I've set an end date. I'm done. I'm tired of Duo. Duo is
Wow.
constantly annoying me, always making me feel bad
But
about
what
my.
was your streak? What was your streak?
Oh, it's still there. I mean, I think we're at like 650 days or something. But it's
Yeah.
it's it's a grind. I don't know.
Oh
This
yeah.
gets to the
Yeah.
whole thing about like I think you need. I don't know. I'm a person that needs like a reason to break streaks. They become almost like defeating, right? Like at first they're
Mm.
sort of like invigorating, and then you're just like, I want this to end, but I can't let this end. Like I need someone to like do it. So I don't know. So I'm looking forward to it. But I always thought it would be funny if Duo had a setting for like as an American English speaker, if they would be like, if I could be like, teach me Australian. And maybe if they would,
Well,
that'd be
yeah.
fun.
Well, yeah. So I'm watching Arrested Development with my son, and they just had the Charlize Theron series with Little Britain and We America, and just so much funnier now that I'm like, oh yes, Britishisms and uh
It's like now you get it kind of thing. Now
oh no,
it's
I got it. It's
uh,
just it's a little those things are a little funnier now. But the show doesn't all hold up, but it's still pretty good.
all right. Well, Matt, I just say, keep your default settings in Australian and
Oh, definitely.
and keep us posted on that. So, well, moving along here, we had some interesting end of year news that I think was a little surprising to me, but maybe not that surprising when you think about it. But none other than Jeff Barr, famed, I don't know what his official title is, but he's basically all things AWS tech evangelist,
Hmm.
AWS blog, dev relations. I don't know. All of those things rolled up into one. He is leaving AWS. And so he posted it. So after 20 years, he has written 3,283 posts, adding up to
Whoa,
over 1.5 million words, and is moving on
that's a
from.
streak. Yeah.
I was going to say, I wonder if he had the same thing like me. He's like, I want to get rid of my Duolingo streak or my AWS streak. So I don't know. I think I can't say I know him. I'm just like everyone listening to this podcast. I've
Everyone feels
read
like they
him.
know him.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all feel like we know him. I'm certainly everyone's read him, probably seen him speak, or like at least a video. So I just wondered. I mean, using a little bit of our sports metaphors that everyone loves, it's like I would assume like first ballot Hall of Famer, right? Like if we're
Sure.
inducting, I don't even know. Like, would we call him a tech marketer, a dev evangelist, a DevRel person? Is there even a distinction? Like when we're voting him in, is he all of one? What do you think?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, definitely like DevRel marketing. I don't know like what his role was behind the scenes of the blog. Like, I assume with an organization like AWS, he's probably spent the vast majority of his time doing public facing blogging, and that is time consuming in itself, as opposed to like a lot of smaller organizations that have certainly much less volume than AWS, would have like a DevRel person might throw up a blog post occasionally, but also be engaged in like field marketing and going to events and speaking at conferences, and then some pre-sales work at the same time. A lot more variety. Whereas the larger the organization, by far, the more specialized you're going to become. So that's my long and short of it, saying I don't know what the guy did in his day-to-day job, but that's a lot of blogging.
Yeah, well, I thought it was one thing I think is interesting about it is, as I understand it from like hearing about him talk, I think, or watching a video, I should say, is that he was basically at the first AWS reInvent, which is like, one of these things. I think it happened in a very small, or even like a meetup. I think it was. I think it was like he was at a meetup or something, and it was like one of
Wow.
the very first ones. So it was like he was working somewhere, doing something, just kind of like wanted to learn more, and it's like in walks like whoever, Andy Jassy and Garmin, and like these are the guys
you
at the beginning.
you
It's just
come
like,
work for us for 20 years.
right, and I think that's that's where I was going. So I was thinking to himself that like he and Kelsey Hightower both kind of share that same type of origin story. It's almost like they were like the, if you, I'll just call it the tech marketing or DevRel person that didn't even have that job title, but they were sort of like the technical guy that kind of showed up to the meeting first and was like, "Hey, I think I could help you evangelize that." So I don't I don't know if you agree with that, but that's kind of the story I've heard about Kelsey Hightower. And I just wonder, is that kind of like the key to being massively successful? I mean, I'm going to say the most obvious thing is just like be around at the very beginning of like a
Man,
revolution.
it's the Woody Allen quote of, nine was it 90% of success is showing up.
Right.
If you're in the right place at the right time, there's this is not a denigration of any of those people, but
Mhm.
a lot of success is putting in the time and effort, with a combination of some luck, right? So you grind your way, and what looks like a lucky break was, well, you were grinding, and it showed up. So um, you know those guys, but they made their own luck for sure. So uh, you know, I don't know how much of it was lucky, but um, yeah.
No, but I think there is something to it about like, I guess there's a combination of being at the right place at the right time, having some genuine interest in the thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Can also be a combination of like, you're just, if you will, maybe you're just 6 months or a year ahead of everyone else, but you just kind of see it a little bit earlier, right? For whatever reason, maybe it's shown to you or for some reason. And then it's like, and then then you're smart enough to know, it's like, oh, I'm going to go with this. Like, I'm going to make
Mhm.
this my career. Like, I'm not like, I'm not going to the Azure meetup, right? Like, Jeff Barr's like,
Yeah,
I'm doing the
yeah.
AWS thing. I'm only going because I think they're up in Seattle or something, right? So it's like you could have easily been like, I don't know, maybe what's Salesforce doing? Should I check out Heroku? Right? You know what I mean?
He's like
There's
the
an easy path.
CenturyLink is a local player. They've got a cloud, right?
Yeah. So I mean, there is something about, I guess, being at the right place, right time, and then knowing it. And again, I think that could be a combination of just this is what you're most interested in, and also you seeing like, oh, I actually think there's going to have tremendous value. So I don't know. So again, whether it's Kelsey Hightower or Jeff Barr. So we've left everyone with something easy, easy New Year's resolution for everyone. It's like just go be early in the most important
And the
technology
next big thing.
for the next decade, and I'm sure you will go on to have a fantastic career. Like, what else do you want us to do? Like, we told you what to do. No one should complain now about what they're doing. Your MBOs have been written for next year. Go get it done.
But then we, at the flip side, we also turn around and complain about those people. Like, God, are they still talking about crypto? Right? Things that oh my God, so much for this distributed ledger stuff, right? There are definitely a lot of people trying to hop on the next big thing and make
Mhm.
wanting it to be a thing, and just like, no,
It
that's
is
not
not a
going to be
thing,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Well, the next time Bitcoin starts, I'm just buying 10,000. When it's like less than 1 cent, I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna buy 10,000 coins. Like who knows? Who knows?
Well, and every scam artist is looking for people like that who are
It's
like,
counting on that,
oh,
right?
and they're like, I've got a new, ICO for the likes of you. We call it the branded coin. You can get it in at ground zero. You just give me $10,000, and you can be the first owner of Witcher coins.
It
And you're
truly
like,
is. Well, don't do that. There's no
that's.
Witcher coin. For the record, there's no Witcher coin, and I'm not involved in it. So don't buy any. So,
but
um,
but when there is, you will have missed out.
I will. I missed out. I know. I always feel like you missed out. Well, the other thing I thought in his post, and I think this is something that a lot of people, I think, who go maybe from like a pure developer background into like, let's just say something else, whether it be dev evangelist or marketing or something else, they all kind of have this sentiment. So I thought I'd read it. So it says, quote, I went from being a developer who could market to a marketer who used to be able to develop. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but I like to build. And I think this is, I don't know, I feel like, Matt, you've probably been in this many times. And I think I'm going to throw out some other people, or I'll just say generally, we know other people that are very talented at like building things, and they get really, really into that, such that like those skills get, if you will, recognized. And then they're usually like a good speaker, or they have the potential to be a good speaker or a good communicator. And people kind of steer them to like, hey, you should do this other role. Like you should, and it can be called, and it's called so many things: technical marketing, technical sales, sales engineer, DevRel. I'm sure I've missed a million of other things like that. But there's always like a sense, I think, with those people, they feel like they're getting away from like the main thing, the thing that really makes them feel that way. And I think, even him after 20 years, and we can only assume absolutely millions of dollars, maybe tens of millions of dollars. I mean, I think it's like safe to assume a lot of money was made here, that even he sort of feels like, well, I've become something, like I've become this other thing, but I really like to build. Whereas like a salesperson is never like, a salesperson never like this. They're not like, I was here to sell, and I was here to take the product up and sell, and I just want to get back to like talking about products. No, they're like, I came to sell, I sold a lot, and I want to sell more.
You made me the chief revenue officer, but I really miss being a BDR, and I really just want to grind on that phone.
Yeah, there's just
I
no
miss the cold calling lifestyle.
Yeah, there's no equivalent. That's a great example. There's never like, oh, I wish I was back to just being the BDR. That's awesome. So I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about this sentiment? Like, have you felt this, Matt? Like, I feel like you've gone through this at times.
I mean, there are definitely roles that when you're in them, you're like, this is a lot of fun. And development is a substantial portion of it, not all of it, is thinking about problems and solving them creatively. um and so you obviously, the farther you get from solving puzzles, you miss that challenge. And not that the other jobs aren't challenging, but it doesn't hit the same like parts of the brain, right? And so there's always going to be people like, I miss problem solving. I mean, it's a game almost. I mean, there are definitely uh patterns that show up in video games that are a lot like software development. And yeah, so people miss that because you get a rush or a buzz from that, but yeah, not going to get that from sales. And so definitely people miss that feeling. And so um you always have this longing to go back to the simpler days where all I did was code in a small office and not have to worry about marketing and sales numbers. And it's I miss it too sometimes, right? But the farther you get from that, assuming you're moving up the org chart, um ostensibly you're providing more value to the company. I mean, one of the things I learned when I left development was how fungible developers are seen, right? I mean, yes, you do have the few 10x rock stars, but a lot of development is easily replaceable with other developers.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting kind of view of it, because what I always think about it is like there's like, you're kind of seeing this in the case of Jeff, like you're seeing it after an incredible, like I said, Hall of Fame run, maybe one of the best runs ever of being in like tech marketing. So like I can see where he's sort of like, oh, I remember when I used to do this. But flipping that around, like because I've been on this side of it too. So, and I think all developers, when you're actually writing code, there's this point where you're an expert of like a subsystem of a subsystem of a product. And that product may itself be like a complicated and not easy to actually use, right? But like you're doing like one thing, like you're like doing the logging thing, or you're doing like the data collection thing. And then that becomes a little bit of like, and the running joke a lot of times developers make is like, well, all I do is I take data in this format and I turn it into JSON, and then I turn it in and I store it in this other format, and then later on I just
I miss being a JSON engineer, right?
Right, but there's something, but I guess it's both simultaneously. It can be really fulfilling, but at times it can also just be like, you know what I mean? Like I want something
Yeah.
else. So I don't know. I mean, I think it is like if you will, it's maybe like a yin and yang. Like I think we all desire to be like experts in some area, right? But to achieve that expertise sort of sacrifices the ability to, if you will, serve more people, know more things, do more stuff,
Mhm.
right? And it's like I don't know. Like to me, I've always felt that way. It's sort of like, oh, I always want to like, I wish I knew more about this other thing. But like when I start to learn about it, I also realize like, oh, my skills are degrading over here, right? Like the
Yeah.
running joke is like GitHub. Like every time I don't use it every day, so every time I'm like I have to re-encounter it, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, what was this thing again? Like how do I use it? And I feel like I'm relearning it. Whereas like all the developers here, like this, they can type in the keystrokes without even thinking, right? They know when I complain about the metaphor being wrong, they're like, why would you ever change this? This is the only way it should ever be done. So I don't know. So I feel like maybe that's just the life of tech. Anyone that likes technology is like you can't ever satisfy both. You can't be the super expert and also have the ability to serve lots of people. So I don't know. Maybe, what do you do? Maybe you're like Jeff. You just sort of like. So yeah. So maybe we should
Well,
give
how does he
advice.
follow that up, right? I mean, where does he go that you know where does he go that he thinks he's going to have a similar impact? And if that's not his concern, he can go do something totally enjoyable. But when you see like uh what was it like the father of Java guy Gosling, I think
Mhm.
he left to go to like an aquatic drone startup, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that is just out of left field. I can appreciate that, right? It wasn't like he's like, I'm gonna go write this new language and we'll call it, Kava. He was just like, peace out. Which is kind of cool. So clearly, um, Jeff is probably financially secure where he can go do some esoteric random thing if that's what been wanting to do.
Yeah. No, I think it makes total sense. And yeah, obviously he can do whatever he wants. I mean, as we always kind of joke on here, is like, well, what I think everyone should do is just go
Nobody's
retire.
gonna listen to us anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, just go retire. But obviously, the AI stuff. But I think you do bring up an interesting point. It's like, I mean, this is sort of like the success problems of all success problems. I think Kelsey Houtire kind of, because he kind of shows up on podcasts every once in a while, even though he's retired. And I think like it is, if you will, it's sort of like if the smallest kind of celebrity you can possibly have, it's like, yeah, you're like ready to do something else, but then you're no longer like the micro tech celebrity. You know what I mean? And it's just sort of like, and you go do something else and nobody really cares about it, but you probably kind of miss, it's nice to have the big perch, right? To have a blog that's like getting read by, tens of millions of people. Whereas your next thing, like he may have trouble getting anyone to read it, right? So I don't know. It's an
Well,
interesting
I
predicament.
mean, wherever he goes next, people will look because of who he is, right? And so, um, he wherever he goes will probably want to take advantage of that. It's like like when Linus Torvalds went to work at Transmeta.
Mhm.
It's like, really, you're hiring this guy to be a Linux kernel, run the Linux kernel from a CPU company? No, they were using it to get attention for themselves,
Mhm.
right? So, um, you know, just it'll be interesting to see where he goes,
Well,
or maybe he's gonna just go retire to spend time with his family.
go chill, right? Go spend time with the family. Go get on Jeff Bezos' boat, hang around with him. Be like, hey,
Oh,
let's
that
tell
does sound
stories,
nice.
and you can, if you will, yacht around the Mediterranean. So, well, if he was going to go somewhere, I think a place he probably can consider, or at least an industry he could consider working in, is AI, and maybe he would call and work with the people at OpenAI, which would be kind of funny. Or maybe not. Maybe with his Amazon links, he'd go to his other
Go to
friends.
Anthropic, keep it in the family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep it in the family. That would make sense. So, the gift that keeps on giving, our friends at OpenAI, the 12 days continue. I guess maybe they just did this for podcasters. There's like, hey, these guys need end of year content. We'll just keep rolling stuff out. So,
Well, I
mhm,
mean, yeah, there's always everybody's doing their 12 days of whatever. It's a tradition, and it always gives us something to talk about. I mean, a fair number of people doing Advent of Code.
mhm.
Guess
That's
I wish I probably should have done that, but I miss the coding days, and yet I don't do coding.
that's right. Yet I don't have. Well, it's like the problem with coding is the first thing you do when you get back into it, you have to spend like 3 days setting up your environment. Then you're like,
Oh,
forget it. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know,
Yes.
that's how I am. Although Docker has made that a million times easier. But
Yeah.
our friends at 12 Days of, or I should say, our friends at OpenAI, they've continued on. So I guess we'll cover this week. We'll cover days 6 through 9, and then you know what? We'll let 10 through 12 will be an exercise on your own. You'll have to cover those yourself.
Happy New
So,
Year.
so the first one was advanced. Let's see, what was it here? Advanced voice with video in Santa mode. Did you see this? Did you watch this one at all?
I watched a little. It was just kind of cringy, so I couldn't take it.
Well, I think it's what do you, if it's intentionally cringy, do we call that like irony? Like what? I don't know. I feel like
I don't even know
I
anymore.
think they're very self-aware. I don't think that's lost on them, kind of like sitting behind the desk. But I guess if you didn't see it, this is what they did. So basically, and now they've shown this kind of stuff before, and I guess with all these things, it's like you can never just get it in the free version. It's always like rolling out to the pro version or things like that. So with that, all those caveats, is basically it's pretty easy to now talk to, right? And the thing that they showed, what I did think at times, to your earlier point, was maybe a clip out of Silicon Valley, the television show, was they decided to show the demo of them using having, I guess, chat GPT, or as they call it, chat, explain how to do pour over coffee, right? So he basically got, if you will, a cup, some coffee, and I guess a kettle, and asked chat, like, please show me how to make pour over coffee, which I just think is like the most Silicon Valley thing of all time, and just pour over coffee in general. So
Sure.
it was cool to watch. I mean, they did step it through it. I think it's easy to get lost in, like, it was sort of like a contrived demo, but it was pretty cool. Like, I mean, it was pretty amazing that it could watch you do it, and then sort of like be a little bit human. Like, it's like, no, do it like this, or like, hold it for this long. So you can definitely think of, like, I was thinking to myself of, like, this is like the next level of like the YouTube video. It's like, how do I change this bike tire, or how do I fix this at my house,
Right.
where you could literally just show it to you and it can tell you, like, do this or don't do this. So
Yeah.
I was impressed. I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I could just like hear the coal fires burning to like power up the demo, and so it's just like maybe it still felt a little clunky, and so it's getting there. Yeah, I mean, it's getting there. I'm not saying it doesn't have potential.
It didn't grab you. I get you. And
It
then
didn't
of
grab me,
course they did.
but I mean, it didn't grab me. But I'm like, I can see how eventually this will be a thing.
Okay. Well, what about did you see the thing about basically Santa mode? You can talk to Santa. Did you see
I
that as well?
I turned it off before I
That was
got
when you
there.
were done. Well, yeah, you can basically talk to Santa, and it's like millions of other things. Obviously, this is done with AI, but of course, this will be like little kids wanting to talk to Santa, and they just want to hear like three different things. Like, yes, you've been a good boy or girl, and yes, you're getting your ear present. So I don't know if we need a full blown AI for all of that, but like, I guess it's there, novel enough. So okay, so that was
Mhm.
day 6. Day 7 was really bringing it back to the practicality. So it's basically projects in Chat GPT, or as someone described it was basically folders. They just basically introduced the idea of like you can group your chats into folders. And it did seem like it would make it easier to have like ongoing projects. So I don't know. Do you
Right.
have, let's come back to like our own use. Do you have constant like open chats that you go back to over
No,
and over?
no, I'm a Philistine. I'm just like, I dabble with it occasionally. I'm like, I'll come back to that when I need it, and I just don't feel the need for it.
Now, I do
Uh,
think it's worth, like, I think I was like that for a while, but once you kind of get in the habit of
oh
creating a
yeah,
chat
yeah.
that you use over and over, because I just bookmarked it, right? So it was
Y-
pretty
Uh,
simple. I don't want to say
see,
like I figured it out, but like, but using this idea of like, oh, it would be cool to have like your like however many you have, 3 to 4 chats that you go back to over and over, especially like
mhm.
reading or where the context. I thought, I don't know. It was sort of like, it's one of these things. I guess I would say this, like, yes, it was all obvious enhancements, but yes, all those enhancements I think I will use.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I just haven't gotten there yet.
Okay. Well, the other thing, and they had this whole,
You know what it is, Brandon. I'm not ready to start a new streak.
yeah, I understand. Well, when you do, you can also use the projects feature, which lets you kind of like upload, if you
Then the
will,
streak will never
files.
stop. right? Because you know it's just going to keep getting
Yeah.
better, and
Well, I'll tell you
then
this: if there's a logo or a character like Duo, like chat becomes like Duo, and he's constantly making you feel bad for not doing your streak, that would be I'm switching to Anthropic. Then I'm
I think
moving
that
on
they
from
need
that
to
moment.
borrow Clippy because I think
I
there's
was like,
something
oh
there,
man.
but AI and paper clips.
I'm sick. I gotta say, I'm sick of Duo. I don't need any more Duos in my life. I don't want. I don't need. I feel bad about myself enough. I don't need you Duo constantly doing that. So I don't want chat doing that as well. But projects, I do like the idea of projects because that way you can upload some of your own data and things like that. So another idea is sort of just making it better. So again, like I would call day 7 sort of just like nuts and bolts. But I say
It's
that
good. Yeah,
as a
it's
fellow
good.
product person, that where people will often gloss over all the stuff. Like this is like, my longstanding rant on like, what we're gonna add? We're gonna add export to CSV. That's what we're gonna do. Like
We're
all
gonna
these
add
things.
usability.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was like, yeah, I like these things. I'm gonna use them. So that's good.
yeah.
Now, day 8 goes back to, if you will, world domination. So they've
Oh,
essentially
sure.
integrated search into ChatGPT. So this is, essentially their direct competitor to Google. So
Yeah,
you are a great example of this. Well, one, what is your default search engine today? What are you actually using?
I'm using DuckDuckGo.
Okay. Will Chat GPT or really any AI search, will they have a chance at winning your default search bar replacement?
I mean, I used Perplexity for a while, and I liked how it provided receipts. It's like here's where I found the answers. Um, what I don't like is, and this is definitely a problem with these things when they provide a response that's wrong, but people don't take the time to like parse it and understand how it's wrong, and then they end up trying to pass, you know, it's just like misinformation. It's just a built-in misinformation search. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, I've seen, anecdotes of college professors, dealing with this where students are like, I Googled it. And, Google defaulting to AI is making stuff up now. And
Mhm.
so, they're like, oh, I Googled these facts and, and they're just wrong. But, it just becomes more noise out there in the world that's wrong. And so, most people aren't going to spend the time to discern that, oh, there's a little nuance to this result. They're just like, it gave me an answer, it must be right, and they go on with it. I'm not ready to like trust it. So I have trust issues with AI.
All right. Well, there's that part of it, but then there's also the part that I think is interesting because they're trying to combine. I don't know what you would call it. It's almost like I assume everyone does this. Like sometimes you just type in something in Google because you just want the URL and you just don't remember what
Mhm.
it is. Maybe it's just like
Oh
a
yeah,
company
yeah,
name. And so what they've done is they basically have a little button in there, and one it says like if you just type in, I assume like just a proper noun, and you're just like looking for the URL. It says it will just figure out that's what you want and basically do the search version versus the AI version, right? And just kind of give you web links.
that's good.
Um, and then there's this little icon. I guess it's like this like legacy. I'm gonna call it legacy search. Like you can, I think it's like a globe or something. You hit it, you basically tell it like, no, I want this is just like a web search. I don't want you to do your AI thing. Just do your like web thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was just saying to myself, it's like, okay, I mean, it's interesting, but I also just wonder, it's like, like when I just type in some random proper noun for a URL, to your kind of earlier point, it's like, I don't know, how many computing cycles did it just take to like throw up the URL? I was just lazy. Like it probably was propernoun.com, but I just wasn't sure, And so,
Right.
I mean, we're talking like I'm thinking to myself, this is like not even worth a fraction of a cent, right? Like this is like,
Exactly.
but of course,
Exactly.
I don't want like, TPUs and
Well, I
NVIDIA
think like
clusters like booting up to like tell me like, oh, here's foo.com kind of thing.
I think my number one search in DuckDuckGo is my son's high school
Right.
because
Exactly. Good example.
because
Yes.
it is the it is the Northern Beaches Secondary College Manly campus. And all I put in is Manly Selective, and it knows that that's what everybody calls it. But at no point is that in the URL or the name of that page. Um, and so I'm just like, I don't know, because the URL is obtuse, Department of Education, EDU, AU, something or other. I will never remember that URL. So that might be my number one search because I can't be bothered. Um,
Well, I feel like we should bring back, this is like taking people back way back, but Firefox had this thing, keyword bookmarks, where you could basically just assign a word, anything. So for you, it would be maybe like, high school or mainly high school.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
all it would
definitely had
do
that.
is it would just in your bookmarks.
Autocomplete to what
Yeah,
you,
it would just take you to that thing. That way, if you didn't want to like actually click on it, open bookmarks and remember what you filed it under, you could just assign a word to it. So I almost feel like that's what I saw when I saw this. I mean, this is like a feature from probably the 1990s, maybe earlier. I don't know.
everything old is new again, man.
I was just
Yeah.
saying, like, but I almost want to be able to tell ChatGPT, like, listen, I'm like, here's all the keywords I have. When I type this word, I just want you to like show me this URL or just redirect to this URL. Like that's all I'm doing here. I don't want you to think at all. Just
I mean,
be there.
probably there's either some, lazy or very smart product manager looking at the AI search stuff. Is like, let me just go through the release notes of Google in the 90s, and we'll just put an AI twist on every single new feature they added, right? And so that's all you have to do is you look at it like, okay, why did people need this feature? Is it applicable? Okay, yeah, here's how we would do that with AI. And your roadmap, I'm sure they have an extensive roadmap and they don't need any notes from me, but I'm like, it's probably not that hard to roadmap it out because search is well-trod territory. It's just this is a new twist on it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Well, I think there is the opportunity. What you're kind of getting to is sort of like, because they're not like promising just straight up web search. It's almost like, I don't know what you would call it. It's almost more like navigation plus search
Oh
plus
yeah,
research. It's like, what are we all kind of using for Google for? It's like, it's kind of like at least those three use cases, maybe more. Sometimes we just want the URL. Sometimes we want like some legitimate new ideas and discussion. That's AI. And sometimes we just need to know what time the Super Bowl is. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
it's like, don't spend that much time on the Super Bowl.
Uh,
Just index that once and just tell us the game starts on Sunday at 5:30.
and it occurs to me like somebody really missed an opportunity not calling their AI search engine Jeeves, because now you can really ask Jeeves. I mean, come on.
It kind of is true. I mean, that was the metaphor. I mean, Ash Jeeves was never good as far as I
It was
remember.
never good, but
The
the
metaphor
metaphor
was
was
good.
good.
It's good. All right. Well, search. I mean, I guess, to put on our Ben Thompson, business analyst hats, it's like, it is an interesting problem or dilemma for Google, right? Because Google has the search monopoly and is trying to get an AI. And so every time you do an AI query, it sort of takes a little bit of their search revenue away versus OpenAI is the other way, right? It's like every time you do search, and I'm sure the ads are coming if they're not already here, that's just money to them that they never had before. So, I mean, it's, I guess, the most reasonable competitor to Google search that like we've had, maybe like, I don't
I
know.
like to think though that like their competition is AdWords, where they're like, tell you what, you buy 100,000 impressions for $5, and we will burn $50 in AI credits to get you those hits.
I agree, but I think that's where there's going to have to be, like, somebody said something,
It's got
right?
to be like a caching hybrid
Right. That's what I was going to say. Like,
search and AI.
there was something, I don't know. I don't really have the source, but like, so this is maybe completely fake, but someone said something like most like it's surprising how often like human beings search for the same thing. Like, I don't know. I'm making
Oh
something up.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
80% of the searches are like done by all of us. They're all like the same things. Right. And it's like, it does
like
not very
when
complicated.
is Veterans Day, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just all kind of stuff. So they're saying, so there's almost like this cache of like the 80% of stuff we're just doing over and
Well,
over. And then you're just adding a little bit of sprinkles on the good stuff, right?
and that's why Google's slowly transitioned from sending you to the other websites to just answering your questions, because they saw that and they knew
Right.
like, oh, this is what it is. But that kind of opened them up to like the AI competition, where people are like, no, that's all you're asking for, we can do that.
Yeah, like, yeah, the football game is that, or recipes is the other one. It's like, actually, if you could just
Absolutely.
like give me the list, the short description and the list of ingredients, so I don't have to click through the
Yeah.
45 ads and the 17 click throughs to see what time it is, see what the apple pie needs, and then it's just sugar and apples. Like, could have said
And
that.
then when you get to that page, it had been optimized for Google SEO anyway, right?
Sure.
So Google taught the internet how to format their content for Google to index it, and then Google just replaced going to their content.
Yep. All right. So that's search. I think that's probably, from a business perspective, that's the thing that's probably most interesting. And then day nine was all about developers. And I watched the whole thing. So it was basically you can do everything you can do on the website. You can now do it via the API. They did have some nice idea that you can basically, if you will, what they call it, support for function calling. So you could say like, oh, OpenAI, if I ask you for this thing and you don't know how to do it, call this function. So and then structured outputs, which shockingly, Matt, structured outputs just seems to be we'll give you the data back in JSON, which is like, so all of this, like, I don't want to say it's like not important, but it was sort of like, it's just sort of like all the stuff developers probably assume they should have had all along is kind of where I put this level.
Yeah. Somewhere there's a product manager's like, fine.
And then,
Fine. We shipped it.
The true fine ones was the new Go and Java SDK. I think that was the one. There was somebody assigned to this that was like, really I have to write this out.
There's somebody who got excited about being a product manager to go work at OpenAI, and they got handed the developer end of the org chart, and they're like, this is what I have to deal with. Export to CSV and JSON exports and SDKs. It's like, why did I leave? Fill in the blank, because everybody has to do that stuff, right?
Yeah, I think if you're working on the Go and Java SDK, you're probably like, well, at least I'm making a lot of money. This is exactly like
that. But as our old friend JP said, it's crappity crap at the end of the day, right? So,
well, hopefully, there's someone young in their career that's excited about it, because that's what you want. This is where you want to take one of your best Java developers and be like, you know what you're going to do? You're going to own the Java SDK for OpenAI, and they're just like, I love it. This is what I want to do. They're like, I'm going to do it right. Finally, someone's going to build, like everyone that builds an SDK for the first time is like, finally, somebody like me knows how it needs to be done. You're
putting the developer in charge of this? No, this is a product manager's call to tell.
But I'm saying like this is the guy you're promoting into it. You're like, you know what? You've been great at this. I'm going to make you the product manager for the Java SDK.
Oh, you're going to, no.
I pull one of my, somebody's like chomping at the bit. They want more responsibility. They're trying to get in product and be like,
but Brandon, then a couple years down the road, that product manager is going to be like, I miss being a developer.
Possibly, right? Or they're going to learn the same lesson, because like if history shows, like they take it on, they're like, finally, somebody like me that understands developers is going to build a great SDK. Then they're going to build the SDK, and they're going to experience what all new product managers do, is they're going to be told how their SDK sucks and how they didn't do it right, and that they didn't support some type of format or technology, and they'll be all up in, all the support tickets, and people will be like telling them how stupid they are. And then that person will have the epiphany of like, wait a minute, turns out that other people have tried to build SDKs and it's kind of complicated. And turns out, who would have guessed, the developers are extremely opinionated when it comes to these things, and you can never satisfy them all. There's always some new thing you're not doing, or you're supporting the wrong version of Go or Java that makes them unhappy. So it's a lesson every developer turned product manager learns.
Welcome to the treadmill.
Could not have said it better myself. So I don't know. So it's good. So the one thing that I think it is good, if you were a developer and you wanted to do more stuff, now have access to do all the things. Of course, you've got to pay. So that should be the other kind of theme here. It's like, you pretty much have to pay to get access to all these things. Now, it wasn't all good news, because while they were rolling this out, ChatGPT, I guess the API, Sora, and ChatGPT all had some specific problems. And Matt, I'm going to read you the summary of the, if you will, root cause analysis. Here's what it says, quote, in short, the root cause analysis was a telemetry service configuration that unexpectedly generated massive Kubernetes API load access across large clusters, overwhelming the control plane and breaking DNS-based service discovery. I'm going to translate that. It's like, hey, we turned on monitoring and we broke a bunch of stuff. Okay, that is what they did. And they basically, this is the most classic error made. I mean, you haven't made this error, like you just haven't worked in technology. Like you're like, I'm just going to put this thing on to collect a little bit of data, and suddenly you take down the entire system because everything is doing it simultaneously.
That is a classic monitoring tool story. Like, time and time again, we turned on monitoring, and it hogged out all the other resources and just took everything down. Every monitoring tool has done that. Or B, it was so intensive, our costs skyrocketed, and it turns out the number one cost of our business is monitoring our business. and some vendors Splunk might take advantage of that, but it's happened to every monitoring company, usually inadvertently. You don't want to be like, oh, we looked at our Datadog bill, and turns out you guys are 30% of our compute spend.
Right. And then you have to have the conversation
Every
about
monitoring tool has had that
discounts, and then
experience. Yes.
well, but I
Yeah.
think the true irony part of it is because all the stuff we've talked about, and like some of them we talked about last time, like Sora and voice, like they're fun things, right? And I had this kind of feeling the other day. I here in Austin, it's it's obviously getting cold, and so there's like tons of leaves on the ground. So I had the if you will the crew come out, and they just like gathered up all the leaves, and they put them out on the street. It's the classic, like, it is a boring job, right? Like getting all the leaves, and plus it's like a job that you can just never win at, right? There's always too many leaves and things like this. And so this idea, like, I guess I felt like it related to this because it's just sort of like, what you really want is AI taking the boring job, like an AI that can like gather up all the leaves and like put them on the street. For me, like, kind of no one wants that job, or that job's not really that intellectually challenging in any way. And my thought was sort of like this. It's like, it's great that you can like make video with ChatGPT, you can talk to Santa Claus and things like that. But what would be great is like ChatGPT looking over your shoulder, or better yet, rolling out the monitoring, or better yet, just like monitoring the system and like through AI and telling you what's wrong and not causing these errors. Like to me, like this problem is really where all of us need the quote unquote help, right? And it's so there's just irony that and I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. Like maybe they are doing some of this, but like it clearly didn't work. So it's just irony that like while you're doing all of this super science fiction stuff, you're still being tripped up by the most basic problem in all of software development. And it's just like, I don't know, like, should we even have hope that these problems will ever be worked on, or will it all just be obscure, weird videos that we're creating?
I think that's where the hope is, because as someone who deals with IT, security or costs or whatever, it's like so much of the practitioner's time is spent in, one, I wish I didn't have to do this.
Right. Yes.
And
Yes.
two, doubting your own coverage, your skills, capability. Am I doing this right? And so AI is like probably, an 80-90% solution for a lot of people. And it might not be perfect, but it's better than you have to trust it. The goal is to make it trustworthy. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Indeed, the goal. So I don't know, but it is sort of it is one of those things. I guess I thought it was inadvertently, part of the 12 days. It was just like a good note. It's like, it's nice that we're doing all these
It
fun
was a good write-up. I mean,
right. No, it's
definitely.
right, but it's also just like a recognition of like, it's cool that it can do all these fun things, but like it still has a ton of ways to go on, like just solving the everyday the stuff you said before, like the raking leaves problem. Like, I don't want to have to do this. Can you do this for me? I don't want to have to monitor my system. Can you please just figure this out for me? So
But then you're always going to have those, trust issues of like, is it doing a good job monitoring? Right.
absolutely. That's well, I mean, I think that's, that is, if you will, the dilemma of all AI. I mean, maybe only with like self-driving cars do we see that kind of, like, at some point people are getting in the cars driving them, and there's inherent trust there. But like, would you ever get to the point that you'll run your advanced computer system that way? It's like, I don't know, open question.
But the
Mhm.
whole stack was built on questions like that. Is my monitoring good enough? Am I missing anything? That wasn't an AI problem. Did I even configure everything right? So um, it just becomes safety checks on safety checks, and a lot of that can be automated. And
Yeah.
just you just hope that the output is built on enough safety checks that you're getting quality at the end.
Agreed. Well, I would say overall, I've enjoyed the 12 days with OpenAI, even though it's rolling out on day 9. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to announce on day 12. If they announce that they've achieved AGI on day 12, I think we're all done. That's it. We just, everyone go to the beach, take the
Yeah.
rest of the year off, and we'll see what happens. But I doubt that will happen. If it does, it'll be exciting. Now, some other news.
If it does, it'll be good.
It will be exciting for us.
I look forward to our AI
Um,
overlords.
yeah, we'll definitely be full-time podcasters then. I don't know what else we'll work on, but maybe even then, maybe OpenAI will make
They're
the
coming for
podcast.
us.
Well, the other thing I thought we'd briefly talk about as we kind of head out and we think about the, kind of the new year was Broadcom. So Broadcom is sort of like and I guess Cote's not here, so we can just say it's like their shares rise 13% on a profit beat. With they basically have this massive opportunity in AI, and not I don't know. I guess I don't know if it's related or unrelated. You're the stock trader here. It's as of this recording, Nvidia falls into correction territory, down more than 10% from its record close. So it's just, and I thought this note I read in one of the analyst reports was interesting. It just basically says, quote, while everyone is focusing on Nvidia's upcoming Blackwell architecture, Broadcom is quietly building exactly what these AI giants need: chips designed from scratch for their unique requirements. And I just like, as we think about next year, I just think that's such an interesting kind of comment to see. Is like the fact that like Nvidia has led the way, but like there is like I think we kind of both know this from just our time and working with large enterprises. What people want is stuff built for them. And I think the fact that Broadcom is going to become, if you will, the people that essentially build the chips for like Google, Microsoft, and I don't know, maybe others as well, it does make it feel like they are in, if you will, a great fast follower kind of position, almost to the sense of like, hey, you just tell us what you guys need. You do all the chip architecture, and we'll just build it exactly what you want. And so it's like, if you kind of head into next year, it sort of does feel like, while Nvidia, as we've talked about many times, will continue to make tons of money, you have to look ahead and say like, well, there's a little danger on the horizon. Like, what do you think?
I mean, I don't think Broadcom is challenging them at the GPU front as much as a lot of the as the compute and network and storage requirements to run all this stuff are well understood. You have the opportunity for more specialization, and chips like the GPUs get broken into like different sorts of processing units that can be further specialized, and that's where that's where someone like a Broadcom or even ARM or RISC-V, they start to challenge at the edges where they're like, look, we don't do the whole enchilada, but we make really good tortillas, and we can we can drill down on that feature set, and that's one less thing your expensive A400 CPU or GPU has to
Right,
do.
you don't need the Blackwell,
You
right?
don't need that,
Just use our
you don't
thing.
need that because you offloaded part of that workload to a specialized, FPGA or whatever. And that reduces the impact of, that very, high power GPU because like it doesn't have to do everything anymore. And Nvidia knows this. They bought Mellanox for networking, so they're working on breaking apart those workloads and optimizing what they can so they can leave the hyper expensive GPUs to focus on just the things that they do best. But as the ancillary workload components get broken off into more and more specialized hardware, that's the opportunity for other vendors. But at no point does Broadcom become like, oh, we're taking the throne from Nvidia. It's like, no, we're just sucking up some of their roadmap and potential to own the whole pie.
Yeah.
Which that's how the chip industry's always worked, right? You
Right, it's
you
gonna
have
happen one way or the other,
it's
right?
gonna happen one way or the other.
Yeah, well, they go on to say that the big thing that they said, another quote here was, Broadcom is adopting a strategic approach to challenge NVIDIA's dominance in the AI computing market by focusing on the opportunity in AI inference. So that's sort of like
Yeah,
TPUs and things like that,
which
where
is
it's like,
which is what ARM is focused on too. They put out a bunch of white papers about like, oh, you don't have to do that on the super expensive GPUs. You can do that on traditional CPUs. And AMD, other people are like, you can offload parts of this AI workload. It doesn't all have to go to those specialized components. And we might not have the performance, but we also don't have the price.
yeah. Well, it's gonna be interesting to watch because as I like to watch, there was the whole the NVIDIA way, I think is the new business book out, right? And I always think that's like the crest. Like when your book comes out about like how great you are. It's always like, uh-oh, is it
I'm
gonna
hearing I
be
should sell.
gonna be hard. So it's like, I don't know. Obviously, Nvidia is still doing well, but it does sort of like a crack in the armor a little bit. And obviously,
Right.
it's stock market. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure Jensen will be working over Christmas. So I doubt he's unaware of what's going on. So all right. Well, Matt, a few things here on the listener feedback side. One thing I wanted to say was Prosh shared a link. He found a great site that I put in the show notes. It basically collated all of the relevant sessions from AWS reInvent with their slides. So if you're just looking for like a one-stop place, you should go check that out. As we near Christmas, as we get into the new year, as maybe you get a new laptop, a new mug, I don't know, something that needs a sticker, what you should do is send your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com. I will be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. And definitely we have plenty. I've replenished. We've got plenty of stickers, Matt. I feel like we'll have plenty for 2025. So don't worry. I'll send you as many as you want. If you're looking to decide where you're going to travel, where you're going to vacation, maybe not vacation, but maybe where you're going to go to your conferences, there's a Config Management Camp. That's February 2nd through the 5th. There's Civo Navigate North America. That's in San Francisco, February 10th through the 11th. And then there's DevOps Days, LA, co-located with Scale 22X. That's March 6th through the 9th. And of course, the discount code is DevOp. No S, just DevOp.
DevOps. You only
right.
need one.
You only need one. That's right. You only need one. When they changed this code to like platform engineering or platform, that like that things have taken over. So we'll see.
Well, they didn't take Cote's suggestion that they rename DevOps Days to Platform Days. So
well, I would say they haven't taken his suggestion yet. So that's
if you make enough suggestions, eventually you'll be right.
That's right. If you keep asking, eventually it'll happen.
The Nostradamus of naming.
A little bit of housekeeping here. So this will be the last, if you will, regular episode for the year. But don't worry, we have very fun end of year episodes. I can tell you they're really fun because we've even recorded them. And if you're really, really on top of it, you can probably listen to Software Defined Talk 500 right now. If you can do it, if you can find it on the internet, you don't have to use ChatGPT. That'll be my clue. You can probably find it.
I'm sure ChatGPT's already cached that answer.
It probably has, but don't just read the summary. I need you to go click on the link. I need to get the views up. Let's go. So go watch the whole thing, download it, make your family watch it again. Just leave it on repeat. So if you need something, don't worry. We'll be here throughout the holidays, and of course, we'll be back in the new year. Matt, what recommendation do you have for this week?
Well, we talked a little bit in the pre-show. I'm not always here to recommend that you go buy something. I'm here to like puzzle out something. So I recently got a set of AirPod 4s active noise canceling. It was a gift from, and I'm not here to look a gift horse in the mouth, but I don't really like them right now. They fall out of my ears, and I'm looking. The tech is great. They work very well in the default lifestyle. Moving between my watch to my phone to the laptop, all great. But then I yawn and they fall out of my ears or something. It's just ridiculous.
And these are the ones with the silicone tips?
No.
Okay. I think
so. That's the problem.
I have the answer for you.
That's the problem.
I think you may have to upgrade to Apple AirPods Pro.
See, the problem was they were a corporate gift, and so like I didn't have the option of the pros, so I was like, oh, that's those are probably good. I mean, they must be good. They've had 4 versions of them, and Apple probably considers this a flagship kind of thing. And I'm like, I'm actually quite disappointed in them. But I've got some covers coming, some tips. I tried wearing them upside down. Apparently that works well, but they still just eventually fall out and bounce off the ground. And I've dropped them.
Have you used previous like the old school?
No.
The old school.
The last ones I'd used were like corded ones.
Did those fit or no?
No, I know I didn't like them, but which is why I never bought them. But
all right. So I don't know, at the risk of defending Apple here, I was gonna say like pretty much that design has not changed since the corded.
No, well, it has. Trust me, it has. I've been reading about fit, and people are like, oh, the second, the Model 2 had a good fit. The 3, they changed it. And the 4 is, they changed this size. So they're clearly nerds, like nerding out on the fit. And I don't know, I've got like freakish circus ears or something, but
Right,
they
but I'm gonna
just
tell
don't
all the
fit.
nerds. I think the answer here is Apple AirPods Pro with the silicone tips, because
Absolutely.
they
No,
come with the three
I
times, and
totally
you
agree.
find the right canal size,
No,
you
no,
put it in. They're even
but
better.
that's the
So I
problem
think
is I
Mhm.
want to like these,
No,
and
you give these to someone in your family, a loved one.
maybe someone who's lost an AirPod and is walking around with just
Listen,
one.
if you have teenagers, there's always lost AirPods. There's never
Exactly.
a time everyone knows where their AirPods are. So you re-gift these, you keep them, and then for your Christmas present, someone goes and gets you AirPods Pro, which are like they're just better.
Well, I had already done some research and I was going to get Fit, the Beats Fit Pro, which, they're both Apple products.
Right?
I think the Beats,
It's
they
cooler,
looked,
working out. I know you're talking about, huh? But it's the
well,
same chip.
I think they
Everything.
looked less likely to fall out of my ears.
Mhm.
And I thought the AirPods Pro seemed like you were paying a premium for the Apple name. And what I had
I
read
like how
was
you
that
say like seem like it. That no, man. I think we can confirm you're paying a premium for the Apple name. I don't think. I think
and the
there's no.
Beats made by Apple, less
Yeah,
premium
it's the
name,
same
same
chip. They have the
product.
same. Yeah,
Yeah,
they have the same like.
exactly.
So all right. Well, you need to get one of those. I think you'll be happier if you get one of those.
It was on my, like, if I probably will get it. So I'll report back if I solve
All
this.
right.
But I don't. So
Until
far, so
then,
good.
check your ear canals before you're buying Apple AirPods 4s. Right. That's your recommendation. We're gonna turn somehow we're gonna pull a recommendation out of you. Measure your
Yes.
ear before buying it.
Well, try before you buy, but I didn't buy, so I don't feel that much regret. But
It's good. All right. Well, that was a good one. My recommendation, very simple this week. I finally got around to actually installing and using the Chat GPT Mac app, and I like it. It's what is it? It's
you
options.
have a subscription. Yeah.
No, I don't. I just have the app. So I guess it's like what is it? A spotlight is what command space. That's what I use to like start, all my apps and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
this is just option space. And it's like, it is nice. It's nice having Chat GPT like right by you, right? It's sort of like, I feel like Chat GPT is becoming like a close friend. I want chat closer and closer to my life. And I do find like the fact that it's close by, I use it even more. So it's cool. So I like that. So if you haven't done it, I think check it out, or maybe try one of the other ones. Maybe you're an Anthropic person. I'm sure they have one as well. But I think it's more. I'm going to use. I don't know if it's a New Year's resolution. I think it's just happening. I'm going to use more chat, more AI in 2025, and I'm going to make the AI closer to me. So that's my recommendation this week. All right. Well, if you listen this far, we really appreciate it. If you would like to see many things that we did not talk about, you can go view the show notes. Those are at softwaredefinedtalk.com/498. Don't worry. The big Software Defined Talk 500 episode is coming. We have lots of special guests. By that, I mean none. We have lots of celebrities. By that, I mean none. But we have a great episode. So we're almost to 500. That's going to be exciting for us. And with that, I would like to wish everyone a great holiday season, and make sure the most important thing you can do, as Cote would say, was to get your phone of your loved ones, open up the podcast app, and make sure that you subscribe them to Software Defined Talk, because that will give us the gift of downloads, and that's what we want. And with that, we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
All right, well done, Matt. People in the chat, and this may be the only way we can improve our YouTube video views. Is dogs. Will you reveal the name? I don't know. I don't want to. Maybe this is too sensitive a question. Can we ask the name of your pet?
Levi.
All right, Levi. Levi looks like he's
Worn out.
He basically slept the whole time.
He's circled, repositioned himself. He had a morning walk.
Is that like an IKEA chair? It looks like maybe.
Absolutely.
He's
Yeah.
just laid
IKEA
back.
chair, IKEA lamp.
He's chilling. Well, it's good.
Yeah.
And he's a beagle.
IKEA bed. Oh my
What is he?
gosh.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a beagleier, half beagle, half cavalier.
I don't know. Should I know what a
King Charles Cavalier Spaniel.
Wow. I don't know. That sounds. Where'd you get the dog? Is this a dog? Australian dog? Born and bred?
Yeah, I've had him like almost 4
Well,
years.
I know you took a dog over, but I think that I didn't want him to bring us down. I thought like
no, that
traveled over. It's just no longer with you, right?
We got this dog about 6 weeks after that dog.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's good. Well, I think Levi has successfully listened to the episode. He doesn't seem moved, so maybe next week we'll get a recommendation from Levi. That's what the people would want. Maybe like, would you be willing to hold him up? You could hold him up in in a future episode. See if that.
I can provide a lot of photos and videos of this dog. He's quite telegenic.
We can confirm to Brett is like, no, Levi is not an IKEA dog. He was not. He was not purchased at IKEA. He's not part of the set. Although why not? Why not
IKEA? Is IKEA.
I gotta say, IKEA with pets, throw it all together. Get yourself, a table you can assemble, a puppy, and some dinnerware. Like, why not? I feel like that goes together.
There's a shocking amount of IKEA behind me. It's pretty much everything. The bed frame, the sheets, the pillows, the chair, the lamp. Not the laptop, the phone.
The chair isn't your chair. Yeah, right. That looks like a nice chair, though.
What, this chair?
Yeah,
it's a Herman Miller. Yeah,
yeah. There you go. There, that's probably cost the same as all the furniture combined.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thanks for everyone that hung out with us on the stream. I think many people took some time off, which is good for them. But it's good to see Brian on. Good to see Brett on. Want to wish everyone a good holiday season. So no more YouTube from us for the end of the year, but plenty of episodes coming. And with that, we will